Shadow Minister Stephen Kinnock, who has 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I'd like to thank the Minister for advance sight of his statement. Madam Deputy Speaker, the Labour Party will always speak up for universal rights and freedoms, for the rule of law and for democracy across the world, including in Myanmar. Yet we know that democracy is in retreat around the world, and for the first time since 2001, democratic governments are outnumbered by authoritarian regimes. What took place in Myanmar yesterday and over the weekend serves to remind us of the daunting scale and nature of the challenge that we're facing. This military coup is a flagrant breach of the constitution of Myanmar, and it must be condemned in the strongest terms. The army's claims of voter fraud are utterly spurious. This is a naked power grab. While Aung San Suu Kyi's failure to stand up for the human rights of the Rohingya people has been deeply troubling, the fact is that her party secured a landslide victory in the November elections, and Myanmar's young democracy must be respected and protected. And let us not forget the human cost of this coup. Many brave and elected representatives and activists were rounded up in the dead of night, their families terrified by the men in uniform on the doorstep. Now they languish in prison cells. How has it come to this? Well, for decades, the power-hungry Myanmar military has oppressed and persecuted the Burmese people, committing countless atrocities, most notably against the Rohingya, for which it currently stands accused of genocide in the International Court of Justice. And experts in Myanmar are clear that the tacit support of China, combined with the rest of the world turning a blind eye, has given the military the confidence to enact this coup, based on the assumption that the international backlash will be negligible and lethargic. Madam Deputy Speaker, the UK and the wider international community must act swiftly and effectively to prove the military wrong on this. The UK government must move from warm words of condemnation to tangible action. As the penholder on Myanmar at the Security Council, the UK has a particular and unique responsibility to lead the international response. We welcome the Security Council session the government has convened today, but we believe there are further steps that must be taken. First, the government must lead by example by imposing sanctions on the Myanmar military and all its business interests. When I recently urged the Minister to take this action last year, he argued against such measures on the grounds that it would have a negative impact on foreign investment into the Myanmar economy. Well, there's nothing like a military coup to damage foreign investment, Madam Deputy Speaker. So surely the Minister must now accept that his argument no longer stands up to scrutiny, and that this government must now immediately impose sanctions that directly target the military and their financial backers. We on these benches strongly support the Magnitsky sanctions against individuals in Myanmar, but let's be clear, they're designed predominantly for countries where senior officials have economic interests in the UK, such as in Russia and in China, and this is not the case for Myanmar. Second, the UK government should seek to extend the arms embargo against Myanmar so that it is as close as possible to global in its scale and scope. Clearly, authoritarian regimes such as Russia and China will be unlikely to participate, but we must seek to build the broadest possible coalition of countries committed to not selling weapons to Myanmar. Third, now must surely be the time for the Minister to commit the UK to joining with the Netherlands and Canada in formally supporting the Gambia in its case of genocide brought against Myanmar at the International Court of Justice. And will he also call for Myanmar's first report to the ICJ, published last June, to be made public in order to shine a light on the atrocities committed by the military? I'd also like to ask the Minister to set out what conversations he's had with the Bangladeshi government to ensure humanitarian aid contributed by the UK is sufficiently reaching the Rohingya who have fled to Cox's Bazar. And finally, what consular support is the UK government offering to UK citizens who are in Myanmar and caught in the middle of this appalling military coup? Madam Deputy Speaker, I respect the Minister, and I know that his heart is in the right place on this issue. But I have to say to him that this statement falls far short of what we need and what we expect. Nothing on sanctions, nothing on the ICJ. The people of Myanmar need a stronger response, and they need it now.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I thank the honourable gentleman for the tone of his response, and also for his welcoming of the international engagement, in particular at the UN Security Council. As he rightly remarks, as penholder, we have brought that forward by a day for a meeting on Myanmar at the Council as a matter of urgency, and that meeting will be taking place in New York this afternoon. He mentioned sanctions on the military. I would politely point out to the honourable gentleman we've already imposed sanctions on 16 individuals responsible for human rights violations in Myanmar, including 6 individuals named by the UN fact-finding mission report. But of course we will work closely with our international partners to consider next steps in that regard, and we will consider all the tools at our disposal. He also mentioned about the arms embargo and whether we would support international arms embargo. We're a long-standing supporter of an arms embargo in Myanmar. We've worked with EU partners to secure and tighten a strong EU arms embargo following the 2017 Rohingya crisis. Since we left the EU, Madam Deputy Speaker, we've transitioned this into domestic law. Our autonomous sanctions regulations prohibit the provision of military-related services, including the provision of technical assistance to or for the benefit of the Tatmadaw. He mentioned the case brought by the Gambia. We have been very clear in our support for the ICJ process, which is putting pressure on Myanmar, and particularly the military, to do more to protect the Rohingya. We've pressed the civilian government to engage constructively and transparently, and we do urge the military to comply with the provisional measures ruling. He also mentioned Bangladesh. We're working very closely with the Bangladesh authorities. We are speaking with Bangladesh government in terms of the support we are providing. We're the second largest donor to supporting the Rohingya who are currently in Bangladesh. We are following the advice very carefully of our post in Yangon to do with the situation involving UK nationals. We will continue to update British nationals in this regard. They're advised to stay at home, only make essential journeys, and continue to check travel advice and embassy social media pages. I've spoken with our ambassador a couple of occasions over the last 24 hours, and we're continuing to closely monitor the situation.